Okay, hello and welcome to the September meeting of the Seneca County IDA. We have quite a few items to go through today. First one on tap is the approval of the meeting minutes from June 3rd of 2021. Anyone have any comments or corrections? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
So made.
I second. Steve second. So, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No? Motion carried. Second item up is the financial statements. And what I'd like to do first is, before I go into that a little bit, is just a little update to the board on what's going on. We looked at the financial statements in the past and thought it could use a little bit of update and refreshment. So Bob Kernan will be working with staff, our accountant Tom Palmer, Germany Burke and Brown, audit committee, IDA board, etc., to update and restructure the monthly financial statements. Currently, the statements do contain a large amount of information, in many ways too much information for the entire board to review, while leaving out some critical highlights. So we're looking at creating either two statements or sort of a two-level statement, one that's reviewed probably by a smaller group during our separate monthly financial review, and another statement geared towards the full board that includes the highlights such as project agency fees, other income received, grants received and distributed, sales of assets, new loans, and major deviations versus the budget. The goal is to have the format for the revised financial statements ready to start January 1st of 2022. And so definitely encourage input from the board. Feel free to contact Bob or Sarah on any suggestions. Bob?
If I could just interject too, we've been using the same format for a number of years. Covers 15 pages of numbers. Now, if we're used to dealing with numbers on an ongoing basis, that's not a challenge. But for most people, I think what we want to try to do is come up with a board report that is informative, makes sense, is timely, and may diffuse some questions that some folks might have when you're going through the documents we've been sending. So that's my intention, and we're looking at a target date of getting it finalized by the end of the year, possibly before that, but there will be communication between myself, staff, Tom Palmer, on this issue, and we're going to come up with a nice package of them.
Any questions for Bob or anything at this point? If not, just looking at the financial statements in your packet for both June and July. Basically, highlights for June and July. We did receive our $100,000 payment from Delago in June. And then we began our loan disbursements to Schrader Farms in both June and July, dispersing around $135,000 to date. Looking at looking at a broad view, where do we stand versus the budget to date? We're about 58% of the year complete right now. Currently, our income is behind budget at around $134,000, which is about $49,000 under where I guess we would be if you're looking at a straight line income throughout the year. But in reality, looking at the projects we have today and other projects in the works, we should easily exceed our projected income by the end of the year. So that looks positive. Total expenses, we're running a little bit under Total expenses, about 15,000 a year less so far, so we're doing well with expenses. And as I say, with the projects in the pipeline right now, we should end up with a good year. So any, I guess, questions or comments on that? Hearing none, we've got two items here. First is the approval of the June 2021 financial statements. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, Bruce, second.
Second.
Okay, voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, motion carried. Second is the approval of July 2021 financial statements.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Next item is Selena Solar Energy Project. Sarah, if you could keep this off.
Sure. So I'd like to introduce you all to Chris Moravaka, who's here to speak about the Selena Solar Project. I'll let him kick it off, answer any questions you have, and then we can get into some of the specifics on our end in terms of pilots and other benefits for the project.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me here today, and I appreciate everybody giving us the opportunity to come here today and talk about our project. Just like to say from the beginning that we believe this is a very good project. We believe it could be a great project for Seneca County in terms of water, in the form of new jobs that could bring to the area, as well as a significant amount of new revenue that could come into the area based on entering into a pilot agreement and also the host community is going to put the town water there. Just very briefly, I'd like to just introduce the company itself. I'll talk very briefly about the project particulars, talk about some of the benefits that I just highlighted, and then there's plenty of time for questions in case anybody has some areas they want to delve into. There's quite a bit of information in here. I won't cover it all, but the information is here, so if there's questions that come up, please feel free to ask as we go forward. Thank you. So real quickly about the company. So NextEra Energy is a Fortune 200 company based out of Florida. It's composed of, or comprised of two main business units. The first is Florida Power and Lights. Anybody's ever been down to Florida, or South Florida, or West Coast of Florida, taking a trip down there, most likely the electricity you got came from Florida Power and Lights. It's one of the largest utilities in the state of, not only in the state of Florida, but across the U.S. as well. The other main operating company of NextEra Energy is NextEra Energy Resources, and that is a company that's responsible for one of the largest renewable developers in the world. Here we have 23,000 megawatts in operation across 37 states and Canada. The numbers increased a little bit since these are based on the year-end numbers, but we are the largest developer and operator of wind and solar in the world. And the reason I highlight that, both Florida Power and Light and NextEra Energy Resources, is to give you comfort that we are a large company that's done this before and we know what we're doing, both on the operating side and, of course, the development of new projects such as the Tolling project here in Seneca County and the town of Waterloo. We have deep expertise in both the development and operation of public sector projects. A little bit about just how we try to focus and operate our company with our core values. From a financial standpoint, one of our strengths is our financial strength, which allows us to build our projects on balance sheet, which means we don't actually look for financing to secure funds to actually build the project. We will, of course, try to finance the project subsequent to constructing the project, but we don't actually rely on outside or external funds to actually get the project through development and construction. This gives us a significant advantage from the standpoint of developing and constructing these projects, in that we're not tied to rely on external financing to get through the entire process to be able to get to commercial operation. I'll kind of skip some of this other stuff, but I'd like to just go to page 6. So some of the highlights. It's an 80 megawatt solar project proposed for the town of Waterloo. As I mentioned, NextEra Energy Resources, through direct subsidiaries, would develop, own, and operate the project and the facility after COD. The project would include, of course, solar arrays, access roads, and other related infrastructure such as collection lines. And we will also be constructing a new set of interconnection facilities that we will build in the development and construction process, and ultimately transfer those new interconnection facilities to NICEAG for them to own and operate subsequent to COD and construction. A project such as this, solar projects, even one the size of the 80 megawatt solar project we're proposing, places limited demands on local infrastructure, whether it's water, use of roads. If there are roads that need repair or need improvement, we will take care of those. And we have also already entered into a road use agreement with the town of Waterloo. So the town is protected in case we do need to either improve roads or something is damaged during the construction process. We will go ahead and make repairs to the roads back to what they were. We've also entered into a host community agreement with the town of Waterloo, as we believe that significant and the majority of financial benefits from projects such as these should flow more directly to the town that is the host of our projects. And a host community agreement is designed to help offset some of the financial benefits from the pilot that don't go directly to the town to make up for the town's benefit. Okay, benefits of the project. We expect that a project of this size would create about 140 full-time equivalent construction positions during the life cycle of the construction of the project. This does not include any of the activities we will do or have done up until the construction of the project. So the development phase, all the consultants we've had working on this project to get through permitting, to get the early stage development. None of that is included in this 140 number. These are purely new construction jobs that are full-time equivalents on an annual basis that will be created from the construction of this project. Trades will include, of course, electricians, other laborers, equipment contractors, who are very best to source as locally as possible, based on the labor and the equipment and suppliers that are available in the community and surrounding communities, as well as additional laborers that will need to round out our labor force to build this project over the approximate 12 to 14 month period that will require from beginning to end once we actually begin the construction process. Again, as we're all here today, we are out seeking a pilot with the Seneca County IDA, and we believe that entering into that pilot can provide significant financial benefits to all the taxing jurisdictions that surround this project. So the county, the school districts, two of them, and the town of Waterloo, of course. And additionally supplement the town of Waterloo with a previously committed host community agreement. In addition to those direct benefits, other direct benefits, of course, are the impact that it has to the landowners that are our partners in the project. And our landowners are our partners. I've worked with them since day one when we decided to prospect in this area and look at Seneca County and town of Waterloo as a potential host for a project. They've been with us every step of the way. They've been with us for every step of the way through the rest of the development phase, construction, and ultimately all the way through operating this project for the next 25 to 30, 35 years. These payments that go to our landowners as our partners help them in a number of different ways. It helps them diversify their income with their farming operations. It helps them with the ability to keep land that they've worked hard for and maybe even had in their family for generations, keep it in their family for future use. And that's important because a project like this does have an end life. And at some point down the road, after approximately 30 years, this project will have a chance to be decommissioned. And what that means is all the facilities and infrastructure that are attributed to this project will be removed and the land will be returned back to its original state. And the landowners can choose to use the land again as they see fit going forward. And the funds that they've received all the way through that process, the way hosted the project, and partnered with us, see to it that that can happen. So there's a lot of benefit for our partners and our landowners that come with projects like this. Decommissioning, which is an important topic, and always a lot of questions. We will, and already have, provided an estimate and a decommissioning plan as part of our permitting process. As we get closer to construction, we'll provide a final decommissioning plan to work through with the town of Waterloo, to get their input. And once we come to a final decommissioning plan based on the final layout of the project, we will then pre-fund that decommissioning plan for some form of financial security, just like in the form of a letter of credit, where the town would be the direct beneficiary of that letter of credit for decommissioning down the road. Okay. Trying to be conscious of everybody's time. I know it's noon. Not sure very much, but I'll get through this quickly. The timeline. Right now, we've been going through the Article 10 process, which is the state's permitting process for projects that are greater than 25 megawatts, such as this project. At this point, we expect a certificate for the project from the siting board in December of this year, maybe even late November. That certificate will allow us to move forward to work through the remainder of our compliance filings, which are filings that we show how we're going to build the project and operate the project in compliance with the certificate we received. Once we get through that process, we can move towards construction of the project, which we expect to begin in March of 2022. From there, we're a little bit of a condensed timeline, but we expect that we can start in March. We should be able to complete the project and come online by the end of the year 2022. So we're looking forward to a lot in the next few months, and then of course next year. This project has been in development for a few years. It's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of effort from folks, related to early stages of development, plus a lot of people locally as well, of course, including the town and the IDA as well. So there's been a lot of people involved in this project, and we appreciate everybody's support. And we're looking forward to bringing a great project to the county as well as the town. So, thanks very much for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any more questions for Chris?
And this is inducement, where we have other opportunities to talk it over, so.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
So the item on the agenda, as Tom mentioned, is the approval of the inducement resolution, which accepts the application and allows us to have a public hearing for the project. Because of the timeline of this project, we have discussed preliminarily pilot terms, which are in line with our UTEP and the solar policy that we put in place last year. So it's the base tax payment plus $4,500 per megawatt, and that escalates 2% every year. You've all received in your packets the cost benefit analysis and the actual breakdown of the pilot. The estimated exemptions for this project are 1.1 million in sales tax and an estimated 17.2 in property tax exemptions. And then as Chris mentioned, the host community agreement has already been negotiated. That's approximately $60,000 a year in revenue for the town directly, separate from our project here, and that also has an annual escalator associated with it. Are there any questions?
We're not necessarily, are you asking for approval of these numbers, or you're basically saying this is a
No,
proposal?
This
that's
is
been
the
discussed?
proposal,
Yeah.
this is the proposed pilot and the cost benefit analysis that will go out to the public prior to the public hearing. So just so you're all aware.
Yeah.
But
we'll have a discussion on
Final
that at the time we
approval.
do the final approval.
yeah,
I think just as a little historical part, very recent history is because the county has opted out of doing solar projects or pilots. That's why we're doing those. We did have a lengthy discussion back with the first Delaware River Solar project we had, and what that should be, looking at other counties and other projects and other developments, and we sort of set with this UTEP what the solar pilots would be moving forward in the future. So essentially, this is the standard one, the same that we did for the project at Fayette, and continuing the same sort of terms and conditions moving forward. So that's a proposal.
I'm looking at the cost benefit analysis. It shows, since one of the benefits is the construction work, essentially, it shows temporary payroll of 21 million, it's on page 5. temporary payroll, that's the construction
Yes.
payroll, I assume.
Yes.
21,279,000.
Yes, and that is calculated, so the software we use has some assumptions about the amount of construction workers and the salaries. So that's where that number comes from.
Would the pilot amount bear any relationship to that number? For instance, if we don't, if Trelina finds a way to do the construction and cap that amount, I mean, that's $21 million, presumably going into the pockets of folks from trades, construction trades around here, which would be great. What if they don't get 21 million?
So this is where the cost benefit analysis is tricky, and actually we're gonna be transitioning away from the software in the new year because they're shutting down. So the software uses project inputs, and right now the project input that it uses is the dollar amounts that come from the application, which would be the cost of construction and reconstruction, and it estimates based on that a number of workers and a percentage of payroll. So this 21 million is an estimate that's done internally by the software and not one that's given directly by the company. So the company is not necessarily held to that as a standard.
I would agree that we need to take a different look. Most of my questions, which is why I'm not asking them today, revolve around that assessment.
Yeah.
And not enough correlation to jobs and what you actually do versus what you say, future jobs. And it's not something for us to dive into today, but the biggest questions I have are all in that arena. Actually, I'm glad that you're going to go to a different program, because I think we need to talk about that and how we should value some of these programs, so.
So we're not actually approving the value of the pilot this time, just like the, or are we?
No, not technically until we get to a final approval, although if for some reason there were any major objections, it would be best to have it known prior to the public hearing when the public comments on the proposed terms. But like Steve said, this is our standard pilot for solar. That's what has been deemed from other IDAs in our state and from NYSERDA as appropriate guidance for these projects. In terms of duration and in terms of amount.
I don't know if you were here, Mr. Dodge, so that we just got a lot of airtime, a lot of discussion on
Okay.
whether you should or shouldn't do it. That doesn't mean you ask what you can ask, but frankly, we adopted what we did. I think there's frankly other changes that should be made, but this is following the format that we agreed to. It won't be approved until we get to the final approval, but this is what is proposed.
Okay. That answers my question.
Okay.
You know, overall, the difficulty is with solar, especially with all the incentive from New York State, incentive money. If you look at this from a traditional project, the amount of money put in and the value, and you look at what's the assessed value, the economics just wouldn't be there for anyone to actually do. So the guidance through NYSERDA becomes more not what is the whole project, what was the whole cost to put the project in, but more what's an appropriate pilot amount, taking into consideration the typical cost to put it in, the value, the fact that essentially the state is subsidizing solar to get that going. So it's not exactly a traditional, someone is putting, say, 100 million into a project, therefore, this is the value. It's the same as the railroad. We have a pilot with a railroad. What is truly the value of the rail and the land going through? So instead of doing that, it becomes somewhat of a formula base.
So the other thing you would add to this one is, frankly, the value of the town getting the benefit, the host benefit, that we don't really, probably don't always have, and it's different from deal to deal, so.
Yeah, so one of the things with when we do update our cost benefit analyses that we want to look at is whether or not we have separate calculations for our more traditional projects versus for the solar projects. Like I said, I started working on a new potential model today that I think captures a lot of what our software already does, but it takes out some of the assumptions that you really can't figure out, what's behind that, and makes it really more about the direct costs and benefits that we can actually measure ourselves. So, be happy to distribute that to you all to look at and give comments on for in the future.
So any more discussion on this? So again, be asking for a motion to approve the inducement resolution, which essentially brings us out for a public hearing, and then we'll be back at a later time to actually determine the final pilot, final conditions and final approval. So I have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, Kelly?
Mr. Brusso,
Yes.
Mrs. Sarancione, Mr. Kime,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Trout,
Yes.
Mr. Wadums,
Yes.
motion carried.
Next item is the inducement resolution for Best Made Products.
So we have Joe McHale here, the owner of Best Made Products. Joe, if you want to come up and speak a little about your project and answer any questions. Just so you all know, it's not the first time we've seen an item related to this project. Earlier we did approve the initial purchase offer for 2 lots of Deer Run. So this is Joe's application for pilot and other incentives. And then he has also submitted to the IDA a loan application, which will be going before the loan committee before it comes before the IDA board for approval. Take it away.
Like Director Davis said, my name is Joe McHale. I'm the owner of Best Made Products. I want to first off say thank you to the board for having me here today. Thank you for Director Davis for inviting me. And just to note that I appreciate the work that the board does. I think it's very important, and more business, more jobs, just makes a better future for everybody. Just a little bit about myself. I'm just shy of 40 years old. I have a wife and 4 children. I live in standing between Canandaigua and Geneva and Ontario County. I have a long family history here. Some of you guys might know the Ricos that lived on Rumsey Street. My grandparents lived here, lifelong residents. My mom and dad live on Lower Lake Road, and I've essentially been doing business in the town of Seneca Falls, dating back to when I first started this business. I have a little bit of just professional background on me. I have an engineering degree from the University of Buffalo. 2005, and from there I went on to work at GW Liskett 50 Springs, and while I was there, I got the idea to start a business and kind of did both for a while until it was business could sustain, obviously, on its own. So this was incorporated in 2007. I started manufacturing in 2008. It was full fake it till you make it mode. I had an old hopped on Yahoo site build and I made a disgusting ugly site. I started advertising products on Craigslist. I got some orders. I said, well, it's time to actually go ahead and build something. So I bought a welder and I had orders for docks before I actually ever even had made one. So I just hopped out in the shop, and I remember my very first day in business, I thought I was going to install four different orders, and it was a mess, and I made it through just barely 2 before the sun went down on the day. But since then, the first year it was 14,000 in sales, and the next year was 40, and the next year was 80. And just things have grown quite significantly. We did about 2.1 million last year. Right around the 2012 mark, it became apparent that I needed to make a decision to either get a shop, get tools, get a bunch of guys, start manufacturing these things on a larger scale, or go with a partner and have everything contract manufactured. So since dating back to about 2012, I've been using Seneca Ironworks, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, over on Host Road to manufacture all of our products. That relationship has been, it's been fruitful up until recently. It's just, I think the direction of their business and the direction of our business, just their manufacturing can support both, which is kind of spurred this whole thing. And that was really, the catalyst was these kind of tailwinds in the home leisure market. We've been growing, at 25 or 30% clip every year, but there was a lot of lost opportunity this year when we weren't able to manufacture to keep up with what the demand was. A little bit about the product. I can't really say we manufacture because we're just starting to actually manufacture ourselves. We design and sell residential boat docks. So if you had a place over here on Lower Lake Road, you have ice that comes in every season, so you install and remove docks seasonally. That becomes a big challenge for homeowners. They have kids that are growing up and off in college. They can't help with it. You could pay a service to do it, which can be quite expensive, and then you're on their time. So our product is designed to be easily installed and removed by one person themselves here. And you might think that there's, that the market is fairly limited, or you just do it on the Finger Lakes, but that's not at all the case. I would say New York is probably about 35% of our business or so. The vast majority of our work comes from Michigan to Maine, but we do ship. We ship to West Coast, we ship to Florida, to Texas. I even sent an order to some folks in the United Arab Emirates on that big kind of trade island thing that they have out there. So it's not, the product itself is, if I was to discuss what makes the business successful, it's kind of a synergy of a bunch of things. We sell direct to the consumer. As you can imagine, once everybody started buying groceries online, that kind of, that made it to where it was much more viable than it was, trying to sell to, somebody in their 60s back in 2010. In Massachusetts, they would have a much harder time and wrapping their mind around buying something like this sight unseen. So we sell direct. The product, like I said, is very easy to use. We try to do exceptional customer service, knowing that we can't just kind of say, well, here it is, take it and go. We really hand carry every project through. Everyone gets personal attention, and then that's reflected in the reviews, which we of course go on track here quite readily. So I gave a little bit of background onto why we're making this switch to start manufacturing ourselves. We are right now leasing some space in the Seneca Falls Specialties and Logistics building, about 7,500 square feet over there. We bought machinery, we bought welders, we got the layout all set up to where we could manufacture all these things ourselves. We have material coming in from new suppliers. The supply was also part of the problem, our current aluminum extruders. We obviously don't want to be in Seneca Falls as Specialties and Logistics indefinitely. That's kind of just a bridge to where we can jump right in, and that's where the new facility comes in the IDA Park. It's ideal for us. It's within walking distance of two of my employees. It's just going to be a very nice setting for us. We're looking to build about a 7,000 square foot facility to start there. Some limited, just kind of shared office space in the front, but the vast majority of it just manufacturing space. And then as the business continues to grow with other products and things like that, probably going to be looking to, most definitely going to be looking to add on to that initial 7,000 square foot facility. So that's some background. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Who are your competitors?
So I would describe the dock sales market as somewhat antiquated. I think you have a lot of legacy businesses that are kind of in coasting mode, I would say, out of the Midwest, like your Hewitt, your Shoremaster, your Shore Station. There are a handful of companies, Europe du Nord, Aluma Dock, Solo Dock, Great Northern Docks, that do somewhat similar to what we do. Again, it's not the one. You can't pinpoint one thing that makes my business successful in comparison to theirs. It's a synergy of everything. So, while my competitor Europe du Nord may have what I would say probably a better engineered product, not better engineered, more highly engineered product, it comes at a higher price tag. And I hear from my customers that they can be a little bit indifferent when they call to have a discussion on their application. They really crush on shipping. There's all sorts of reasons why, like I said, when you take our whole package, we're able to do quite well. And then just, anecdotally, it's kind of hard to see where you are in the marketplace. So I really can't tell where I am in comparison to some of these. But you know, like, my decking manufacturer in Michigan for my plastic decking sure stuff, they sell to a whole bunch of dock manufacturers, obviously. They said, this year I was on track to be the biggest customer. So it just,
Where's that manufactured?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yep. Down there.
Are they permanent or removable?
Removable, so in some instances, you could, like, if I were to ship a dock to Florida, obviously you don't have any ice problems there, so you could certainly leave it in your house, same with Texas. But even someplace like Florida, you know, when they get a hurricane coming through and they're expecting some kind of a rising water, they can take their stuff out.
Is your product, being able to be, pulled out by one person?
Yes, yes.
The
So,
advantage over your customers, is it, or?
yeah, so, if you were to go to the website, I'd encourage you when you're done here, just because I think it's interesting to look at for context. But, our design is it's a tip-in dock, meaning, so traditionally you have decking that's permanently fastened to a frame, and then when you do that, it's a multi-person job between 2 and 4 people, and a lot of them, you know, it's just one person, and like I said, their kids are off to college or whatever, so the frame, the deck panels come off, so you have a 50-pound frame that you're carrying and you're placing it in deck panel 1 and deck panel 2. And then I have these set of tip-in brackets where you can actually carry your frame out upside down, you put it in there and you just kind of flip it over. And so you kind of build yourself a walkway as you're going out. And that's very appealing, so everyone wants to put their docks in March and the water's frigid and waders leak. And they want to do it themselves, they don't want to wait it for anybody. So there's a handful of customers, some of those competitors I listed do tip-in docks. Like I said, there's little nuances to why I don't think they do it as well as I do.
For the permanent dock, you need building permits to put it in temporary.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. So like over here on the north end of Cayuga Lake, the ice is just, you just couldn't put in a pile driven dock, it just won't work. But if you were to go down the lake some, I don't sell as many docks down there because a lot of people have permanent docks, even if they don't, any old hunk of junk that they have in there is serving the job. Whereas if you go over to Cayuga Lake, for example, where you'll have a mix of both permanent and resident and removable, a lot of those costs for, you know, say a 800 square foot dock or whatever, you know, that might be, you know, $80,000 or something, whereas for me it might be $15,000. So even if you didn't want anything to do with having to install and remove seasonally, you could pay somebody to do it and still never even approach that number.
So you have 4 employees right now, 4 staff
Yeah, so it's a little bit convoluted in that we have a transport company as well that basically just exclusively transports our product. As you can imagine, a lot of our customers run dead-end dirt roads and, you know, in Maine, and you can't send an 18-wheeler in there if people aren't used to getting shipments like that. So we shipped LTL back in the day, and it was just a nightmare. You'd have this exceptional customer service experience, and by the time you got to the last thing they were going to remember was some jerk driver dumping it off, and it's I touched a sore wound here somewhere.
You obviously didn't call Wadham's trucking
No, we've never used Wadham's trucking though.
Maybe you should.
So I have two employees there, a logistics guy who kind of plans the routes. Like we might load 5 orders and then go, you know, drop in Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts, Maine, then come back. So a driver and a logistics guy over there, and then on the Bestmate, but we're all kind of working hand in hand, so Substream Transport and Bestmate. On the Bestmate side, I have a manufacturing manager and then a laborer/welder. I have an operations guy who just dives into various projects. Like for example, when we decided we were manufacturing ourselves, we said, well, we got to start tracking our inventory now. So we added an inventory management that talks with our accounting software, and then we have another customer service guy that helps answer phone. So yes, 4 people on the Bestmate side, and then 2 on the Substream side.
I guess where I was going was, how do you sell your product? Are you strictly reliant on word of mouth?
No. So primarily Google Ads. Everything's online. That's a great point. I forgot to mention. So we were an internet business before it was cool. And we all worked from home. That's the way it's always been. Up until recently, it was just me and my right hand man Eric, who's the manufacturing guy. But the way it works is I have a really nice website. I put a lot of time into it. I have doc design application tools on there. And so I'll show search ads for different terms. You'll go on, you'll see it, you'll fill out my doc builder application, you'll pick up the phone and call, you'll submit the lead form, you respond to 100% of what it is by, and then from there it just enters into just a personal conversation. Usually when we talk about the application, talk about pros and cons of what they're trying to do, and then eventually we'll hopefully take an order, and then when it's time to ship, we'll just run the credit card form and drop it off.
Do you have any growth projections, like 10% over the next 10 years,
For
20%?
the last 3 years, I don't recall the numbers off the top of my head other than I just put it together for Sarah a few weeks ago. But I think we haven't had anything less than 15% in a number of years, and a lot of those have been 25 and 30%. I wouldn't be, this year we were on track for a 300% increase. But the supply chain and the things going on with Seneca just kind of made that come to fruition. We're still going to end up with a 50% increase this year. But I think the combination of the way that we do business and the way that the buying experience has changed for these types of products, and I don't think that home leisure may not be what it was this year, but I think it's still going to be very strong. I won't be surprised if we were growing at 50% for the next for the foreseeable future. Especially when I start to consider some of the things that we want to do, some of the areas and just product related that we haven't tapped into yet. But I mean, conservatively, I would say 25% growth for the foreseeable future.
If you're able to get enough, for the future, you think you're gonna be able to get enough welders and skilled?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've never, I know we're young in terms of having people work for us, but I've had a lot of, pretty much everybody who's come to work for me is taking a pay cut to do so. Just because, I mean, as a boss, I don't boss anybody around. I have good people in good positions that are able to manage and own their day. And so just like me, they can wake up in the morning and say, all right, what's my project for today? And then I'm going to go do it, and I trust them to do it, and I'm doing well. It's just a nice atmosphere. If somebody makes a mistake, we don't send them right out. I'll admit that I haven't had to hire skilled trades yet, other than just the one guy that we have now. And he's more getting trained up than he is, came in as a skilled tradesperson. But I think the margins in the business can warrant a very high wage for somebody like a skilled welder. We've never not been able to make it work before, so I'm just kind of
Any other questions? If not, Charlie?
Thank you.
So what we have before us is, just like the last presentation, we have an inducement resolution that is essentially asking to go out for public hearing, and then afterwards we would come back for any approval. So this is to move forward.
And this one, we don't have a proposal on.
This
It's
one, we
not part
don't
of-
have a proposal on. The timeline is a little bit stretchier because we're trying to accommodate and line up this with a potential loan with the final sale. So, we can discuss that more at a future meeting.
So if there's no other questions, they have a motion to approve this inducement resolution.
Second?
Okay.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Mrs. Surancion?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Wadums?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is another inducement resolution for Wilkins recreational vehicles.
I'm going to invite Frank Wilkins up, owner of Wilkins RV, to discuss his project in Tyre.
So yes, Sarah mentioned, my name's Brian Wilkins, I'm the owner of Wilkins RV. I'll start by giving a little history of our organization, and then I'll give a little history on the project that we're proposing. So Wilkins RV is a third generation family owned and operated RV dealership with 4 locations across central New York. Business was started by my grandfather in Cornell, New York back in the 30s as an auto detail shop. My father took over in the 60s and the late 50s. He and my grandfather had started to move into RVs and built the business from there. I purchased the business in 2004. We moved, at that point, we were still just a single location dealership. We moved to an interstate location in Bath, New York in 2006. At that facility, we built very similar to what we're proposing here. It was approximately a 30-acre site, 50,000 square foot facility. It's got a 14,000 square foot showroom, 20-bay service department for servicing RVs. Part of the building, about 8,000 square foot of the building is 2 stories. So upstairs is accounting and storage, and downstairs is a parts store and more offices. So we built that in 2005, opened in 2006. In 2011, we purchased our second site in the west side of Rochester in Churchville, New York. We grew that business to the point where we built a new facility on that site in 2015, very similar to what we did in Bath, just probably about 10% smaller in size. In 2017, we purchased the former Valentine RV. They had 2 locations at the time, one in Victor, New York, and then a facility in Cicero, New York, on the north side of Syracuse. And then in 2019, we moved our Cicero store a mile up the road to Brewerton, New York. So as I said earlier, 4 locations, all located in central New York. Currently, depending on seasonality, we go anywhere from 180 to 200 employees. One thing we're proud of is that we're a 7-time winner of RV Business Magazine's Top 50 RV Dealer Award, including we won it the last 6 years in a row. This year we'll retail over 3,000 RVs between the 4 locations. Our core business comes from about 40 to 60 mile radius from our stores. And we get probably 20 to 25%. Each location can vary a little bit, but we'll get about 20 to 25% of our business from outside that radius, including outside the state. And we certainly think the New York State Thruway location, that frontage at that location certainly opens up the business to be on the higher end and even more of that, because that'll be our Churchville location and our Bath location are on 4 lanes, but they're certainly not on 4 lanes that we get the traffic to the New York State. So that's kind of some history on us. The project that we're proposing is we've entered into an agreement to buy 40 acres of property on the northwest interchange where Del Lago is. So where Del Lago is on the northeast side of that interchange, we'd be directly across the street on the northwest side of that interchange. At this point, we've signed an agreement, but we are working through our due diligence. Part of the due diligence is securing the permits and everything to do the facility. We turned in our site application to the town of Tyre. Well, they'll officially accept that application at the next meeting. And our hope is that we would be able to work towards approvals at either the October meeting or the November. And I'll circle back and talk about timelines at the end. As far as the project, very similar to what we did in Bath. So it'd be a 50,000 square foot facility. It's an indoor showroom for the sales side of the business, and then 20 bays for the service side of the business. Our facility in Bath employs about 80 employees out of that facility. I don't know that we would get to that number here. And the only reason why I say that is we centralize accounting and we centralize some services and those are at that location. So the number of employees we're projecting would be maybe the 65 range. We're open year round. We would put, we're proposing 10 what we call demonstration sites. They're sites where campers can be hooked up to electric and water. And where they come in useful is when a customer is coming to pick up their new vehicle. They have spot, we have a spot where we can plug it into water and electric and kind of walk them through the systems. But where it's also really handy is folks who are coming out of state to purchase. They'll often stay with us for a couple days and kind of do a shakedown of the vehicle and test all the systems and just clean up any punch list items that need to be taken care of, and then they head home. And also when they come back for service, they'll use those sites to stay with us for a day or two while we work through service items. So we think that's just a great fit. The casino across the street, the outlets down the street, and the wineries in the Finger Lakes area. It's absolutely going to bring some consumers from outside the area here. I think that's the project. As far as a timeline, like I said, we're trying to work through approvals between now and the end of the fall. What we'd like to do is break ground as soon as the weather breaks in the spring. And that matches the timeline that we did 15 years ago at Bath. And with that breaking ground in May, we were able to open the following January. So that would put us opening January 2023. Obviously, supplies and supply chain concerns might make that a little bit difficult, but that's a new location for it. Go ahead, yeah, any questions?
You say your customers typically pay for a lot of going to store and move, and they want to take care of your concern that cannibalize those two stores at all.
No, we don't think so. So we don't have great market share in the Syracuse market, but Star and Riverton's a pretty small store. So we think that this will help us gain some market share in the Syracuse market. With their location, we'll figure that out.
So I was at the most recent Board of Supervisors meeting where you presented.
Yep.
And there was the discussion about, or maybe not a discussion, but the statement about you needing to work with Del Lago on utility line sometime. Any update there? Does that look like it's not a problem, not an issue?
So we speak to that Metro when we take that one.
Why don't you take the lead, and I'd be glad to fill in anything after that.
So we attended a meeting Monday morning or Monday afternoon with Mitch coming in with county's engineers, county's attorneys, our engineer, myself, and Lance Young, the general manager of Del Lago. At that meeting, the county has authorized their engineers to do a feasibility study to look into the feasibility of taking over that line. They'll look into capacities, whether or not the infrastructure there can support what Del Lago wants to do in the future, plus what we want to do, plus possibly any other projects. The best way to do it, and then circle back to us. So we're going to have a follow-up meeting to that a week, basically every 2 weeks over the next 4 to 6 weeks, trying to work through that. That's certainly something that would be critical to the project. There's going to be some help there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you. And so before us, we have a resolution similar to the other ones to go out for a public hearing. Obviously, there's still more work that needs to be done, approval by Tire, other type items. But this would allow us to move ahead with a public hearing and putting together the center for approval at a later date. So with that in mind, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Kelly?
Mr. Brusso?
Yes.
Mrs. Francione? Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Wadums?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Just as a side comment, I just throw this sort of issue that we have with, development in the county, how critical infrastructure is, water, sewer, electric, those infrastructures. They're not as readily available as other locations
I
could be.
don't want to take away Jeff's thunder when he does his report, but I guess this is a good time to maybe add that the One Seneca group, as you know, we've been meeting weekly. We have identified as a group that infrastructure is going to be the first key priority for us in implementing the strategic plan. And as part of that, as you all know, the county has received $6.6 million from the American Recovery Act. That funding can be used for infrastructure, and the County Board of Supervisors has put together a special committee to determine how to spend the remaining $3.3 million. So the goal of One Seneca is to actually advocate for specific infrastructure projects before that committee. And as such, Jeff and his team kindly put together a survey that we've sent out to our business lists, asking for recommendations and things that they've identified as priorities for their businesses to grow. So hopefully we'll be getting responses to those over the next week or two, but just wanted to let you all know that that is going on.
So before us, the next item is we have another solar project, another Delaware River solar project. Previously, there was before us approval for a site in Fayette, which was approved, and now they're back with one in Lodi.
Dan Compatello's here to talk about the project.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. I'm Dan Capitello with Delaware River Solar, and it's good to be here in person finally. The last meetings we had for New York Phase 1 project were all over Zoom. So thanks for the IDA's dedication to Seneca County and the role of solar in Seneca County. We really appreciate the work the board has been doing over the past few years here. Here to present on the New York Lodi 1 solar project, this is the town of Lodi. Wanted to also give you some background on what Delaware River Solar has been doing in the county to date, because some of that does kind of tie into the New York Lodi project. We have recently completed construction on the New York Phase 1 project, and that is now energized and it's fully subscribed to. We also have the Sentinel P and the Donati solar projects under construction right now at the corner of Route 13 Gravel River. And those two megawatt projects will be turned on and energized probably later this fall, and both of those are also fully subscribed. In addition to those community solar projects, we also are offering a community choice aggregation program to communities, so we're reaching out to the ones that we work with in Seneca County right now. So we've made presentations to Seneca Falls, Lodi, and Fayette. And what community choice aggregation does is it allows those communities to opt everyone into solar-only energy allocation program, and that allows them to get access to solar energy without having to go out and find it themselves, which could be a little difficult trying to find available solar from these days. So we know that all three of those towns are interested in doing that. And that would basically kind of allocate power from our projects, other projects in the community, in the area, and the region, and be able to sign up full town residents who want to sign up automatically to get renewable energy at a discounted rate. The Lodi project will be one of the projects that will be able to provide power to that. New York Lodi is a 5 megawatt alternating current photovoltaic system, so very similar to the New York Phase project at Canova Road. And that site that's proposed to be sited on 30 acres of land. We've received all of our permits to construct and operate that from utility for the town and county. And we expect to begin construction on that project early next spring in 2022. That will, just like the New York Phase project, it will send power right onto the distribution grid right at the road, and it will send power out across the town, making some line improvements to domestic lines in the area and the infrastructure. So I think the model for the New York Phase 1 pilot is what we would like to see through the IDA. And again, we really appreciate all the thoughtful consideration you've made for solar's role in Seneca County. Any questions on the project?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. Great, thanks a lot, everyone. Appreciate it.
And this is another inducement resolution. The terms are the same as the one for Delaware River Solar for the Fayette project. And if anyone have any questions on this?
All in all, we're approving this, or this is proposed, we are affirming the work, this is the percentages for these two projects are dramatically different. Same, some is really
Which two
Gotta keep-
projects are you, this compared to the Trilina project?
Yeah, because of the size and scope.
Because of the size,
Change
yes.
dramatically. So those are some of the questions that I have, so I'll ask them at another time offline.
Okay.
And so I get that back. But as far as the inducement, I'm fine with that. You, as with the other ones, have some questions on these. We're proposing this, but not approving.
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
So with that, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
So Kelly?
Mr. Bruso?
Yes.
Mrs. Strontione?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Wadums?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next is the transfer of the Route 414 sewer line to Seneca County. Sarah?
Yeah, so this is exciting, don't say that. This is exciting, I think a lot of us never really thought we would see the day come when we'd be voting on a resolution like this. As you all know, the Route 414 sewer line was installed back in 2004 when Petro first came to the county. And we helped finance it with PIF, which is how we ended up with ownership of it. And then obviously there have been some disputes throughout the years as far as trying to get it transferred to joint water sewer district and then eventually to the county. So the county approved earlier in 2020 actually to accept the transfer of the sewer line. So the approvals have been done on their end. This resolution is to do the approval on our end. And then we will, once the county attorney has confirmed that he has all the appropriate easements for the sewer line, then we will go ahead and work toward closing on that, which is anticipated to be the beginning of October this year. So all good news. Any questions?
The only comment I have on the resolution itself is what we had some discussions on. Quite often we've had these types of agreements subject to the executive director signing it and agreeing to the terms and conditions, and then one of two, either the chairman or the vice chairman, also signing that. So I'd like to just, this resolution as proposed with that inserted into this item. That's the only change I have to got it done.
That's true, after like 17 years or something like that.
I'd like to thank Mitch especially for really helping get this over the finish line for us over the past couple of months. Working with the county attorneys could not have happened without them, so thank you.
So with that, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
You should do that.
Yes. Kelly?
Mr. Bruso?
Yes.
Mrs. Strontione?
Yes.
Mr. Kine?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Tom Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Yes.
Mr. Trout?
Yes.
Mr. Wadums?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next item, we have an update from Jeff Shipley on Chamber of Commerce and other related updates.
Okay, I'll be brief, because Sarah did a great job in explaining One Seneca, and it's truly a one collaborative effort here between the IDA, the Chamber, and the county. I think we have really grown a lot as this collective over the last year and a half or so. The survey that went out to the Chamber yesterday, and now the IDA. We're working with the county to get it into county departments and municipalities, so we can hear what's on the front lines as well. But that is the goal, is to, we all understand how important infrastructure is to economic development, and that's really the goal of One Seneca, is to push an advocacy item to our elected leaders and board of supervisors respectfully. I mean, obviously, they are the ones that make the decision, but I think it's important to hear from a group of leaders like the IDA, like the Chamber, and certainly all the people that make up One Seneca. So that's the goal. The survey is underway. Hopefully we will have a really good turnout. We've already had a number of responses in a day, so I think that bodes well for how this survey is coming out and how the community is embracing it. Outside of that, it's been a very busy time. Obviously, we are in the peak of tourism season. That's really a huge undertaking for the Chamber of Commerce as the tourism promotion agency. We saw one of the strongest Julys that I have ever seen here in the region from a tourism standpoint. Our many initiatives are underway at the tourism promotion office. We're on track. We've upgraded over the last couple of years the website presence, the digital presence for the county in terms of its tourism capabilities. And we're on track. I'm very happy to report 18,000 website visits each month. So we're on track for about 250,000 by the end of this year, which is a huge increase from where Seneca County has been. Seen a big uptick, noticeable uptick in visitation from New York City, Philadelphia, and Syracuse in particular. So it's just been a very busy time, and just happy to have the relationship with Mitch and Sarah for One Seneca. I think our collaborative efforts are really making a difference. Will make.
What do you think's been the big change? Better website, better advertising, better COVID?
Certainly all of the above.
Yeah.
In COVID, you know, the silver lining, I think, of COVID is that it's forced people to stay a little closer to home and explore some areas that they did not typically come to. So a little bit of all of that, but make no mistake, the amount and reach and ability that we have successfully deployed over the last year with, actually it started 3 years ago. So as those funds have been invested in the right ways, and that's the work of the tourism industry as a whole, that's the work of the people, the men and women that sit on the various tourism committees, whether it be the Seneca committee, the Chamber's tourism committee. All of that working in unison has really made a difference, and it's really why I think Seneca County has weathered tourism, you know, across the board has been a decrease, but I think Seneca County and the Finger Lakes in particular has worked very hard to boost that.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jeff? No, thanks, Jeff. Next is Don Trout. Any updates from the Board of Supervisors?
No, but I could probably go right with the same theme that you've been going with the infrastructure and the money. We did only get 3.3 million of it so far, and then next year we get the next 3.3. There has been a lot of discussion about how best to spend that money, and honestly, if they gave us triple that, we could spend it in about 5 minutes if we really wanted to. There's a lot of infrastructure in the county that needs attention. There's a lot of buildings in the county that need attention. We just own a lot of stuff. That's the bottom line. There was a plan years ago to go through this building and revamp it and make it more efficient for the people that were here when COVID hit. I think that the original Passero project started 6 years ago. And then the We took on the Bonnet building, bought that, then it needed a new roof, then it needed a new electrical panel, then it needed bonds to be put in. I mean, it just, you get involved with government and everything costs 10 times as much, and you gotta pay that prevailing wage to fix things and everything else. So the plan is, as far as I know, to commit some of it towards infrastructure, if not a good chunk of it, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes along with spending that money, a lot of documentation. If you do it wrong, then government's gonna want their money back. So there's a little bit more to it than what's on the surface. I know that we're going through the fine details about how best to handle the paperwork end of it, and that'll be very public by the time it's over with what we actually are gonna spend that money on. I can tell you in my town, the town of Waterloo, we've just earmarked it and set it off to the side. You get up to 2 years to spend it, so we make sure that we don't handle it the wrong way. It seems like the best way to handle it is to put it into a big project. Here's what we did with it. $3 million was spent on this, not dicing it up and having 50 other little projects go along with 10 times that money in paperwork alone. So I think we'll make a good decision. We'll definitely take Seneca 1 into account. There's no doubt about it. And I think a good decision will get made there. Other than that, just like Seneca County is so used to, seems like we're at war with the Indians all over again. We've sent a letter saying that we didn't support Halftown just over the handling of what he did out there in Route 89 by going in and demolishing his own people's buildings and property, and I don't know, probably put him somewhat at risk, safety-wise. So we sent that letter out, and we're going to be moving towards a new law for septic tanks that we got to vote on here shortly. So every 5 years you would need an inspection from a county official. It would be every 5 years, and then it's not been made extremely clear what the next steps would be if you fail that inspection, other than replacing your whole septic. I was very verbal at the meeting and said it's not going to go over very well in certain parts of Waterloo. You're likely to be escorted off the property with a shotgun. They said that they could handle it and they were used to dealing with that, so we'll see on a final vote how that actually works out. But if you're a poor person, you know your septic tank's been in there for 50 years and it's probably going to fail a septic tank inspection. I can't see how that's going to work out very well with somebody from the health department showing up on your property, you knowing that this isn't going to work out well. So more to come on that. We'll see where that ends up by the time it's all over. That's going to be up for regular vote at our next meeting. That's pretty much all I have.
Any questions for Don? Sarah, other business?
Just one thing to mention, so we have decided to push the final decision on winning bid for the RFP regarding a feasibility study at the industrial park until our October meeting. We did have a small group meet to review. We had 5 proposals. They've narrowed it down to a top 3. We have sent follow-up questions to those 3, and then we'll be conducting some interviews with the key members of their teams, and then we'll come to you all with a final recommendation, like I said, in October. So just that minor modification. I don't have any other business to
That's unless someone has something else to discuss, we have a motion to adjourn.
All right. Go ahead. Thanks.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone want to stay? Oh.